Om Sai Ram. Let's take up the last part of this chapter 4 from your Sociology PU2 book, Family in India, and we are going to discuss today causes for changes in the joint family. So in last lesson we studied about the changes that the joint family was witnessing, that there was a gradual deconstruction of the joint family, and there were changes in the structural and functional aspect of the joint family. So in this part we are going to study about what are the causes for those changes in the joint family. But before we go on, as we always do, let's discuss the answer of those questions which we asked you the last time. First one, describe any 4 structural changes in the joint family system. And here we talked about the size, ownership of property, changes in authority, status of women, marital choices, interpersonal relations with in-laws, weakening of family norms, nuclear family. You have to describe these points in detail. You have to give only 4. Second question, describe any 4 functional changes in the joint family system. So the functional changes incorporated changes in the provision of common residence, religious functions, role of protection and socialization of children, changes in economic functions, and changes in recreational functions. So please elaborate while you write your answers. Now let's move on to this part of the chapter. So what are we going to study today? We're going to study the causes for changes in joint family system. So let's briefly discuss these causes. These were industrialization, urbanization, rapid growth of population, education, changing status of women, and social legislations. I hope you understand the meaning of these terms. What do we mean by industrialization? Industrialization is a phase, is a time where industries make a very big entry into the scene and they change the scenario, they change the scene from the rural life to urban life, where most of the people will work now in the factories instead of working in the fields, agriculture. All those areas will be changed now. And industrialization in India came with the advent of Britishers. They set up many industries for their own interest. So this industrialization gave rise to urbanization. Urbanization is the city way of life, not the rural way of life. And all this with the help of education and increase in medical facilities. There was a rapid growth of population. There was increase in education, and all that had an impact on the status of the women. And the status of the women and the other norms related to the joint family were affected by social legislation also. Many laws came with the advent of Britishers, so which impacted, or rather they were detrimental to the growth of joint family system. So we are going to, I just gave you a background. We'll see what are the reasons or causes for the changes in the joint family system one by one. So let's take up this industrialization. So as I have already given you the background of industrialization, that the industries were set up in a large number, and this was factory based work. Factories were set up for different fields, for steel industries, for paper industries, for fabrics. All those things were brought in by the Britishers when they came in. So the first impact that it had was that the industrial centers pulled persons of different families out of the traditional peasant society comprising of joint families. So earlier these families were set up in a rural setup and they were living in a joint family system. But now the different individuals, they broke off from the joint family to join these kind of industries to earn and to live a better life. So this was also detrimental to joint family system. So this struck at the roots of the joint families and the process of the change started. Furthermore, the process of change in joint family gained momentum from the rapid development of transport and communication. So here there was a growth of transport and communication also. Why? Because now people are traveling to their work, which was away from their homes. So transport became a necessity. So this gave them an advantage to move out of their little villages or the joint family system. So this was also one of the reasons why people started moving out of their joint family system. I hope you have understood. Next point was urbanization. So urbanization, as we had discussed earlier, was the urban way of life or the city way of life, which was in contrast with or very different from the rural way of life. Here people would live in small houses, there will be basic amenities will be there will be larger population, there will be interpersonal relations will not be there, people will not know each other so well as they know each other in the joint family system or in the rural areas. So this is basically, I've given you some idea about what is urbanization. So what happened was the percentage of people migrating to cities and towns in search of jobs and better prospects increased because of industrialization. So now there are many industries set up in the corners of the cities. So what people are doing, they are coming from their villages, migrating from the villages to join the work, to earn the living or the money or to look at a better way of life. The urban centers also provide people with various amenities of life like transport and communication, sanitation and health, education and employment, etc. So this was all the urban life was promising them. So many people from the rural areas came out and thereby breaking their ties from the joint family system. Gradually they lost control over joint family and remained independently in cities with the nuclear families. So here comes the nuclear families, small families with 1 or 2 generations maximum staying together. Third point was the cause for the breakage of the joint family system was the rapid growth of population. So rapid growth of population brought about a corresponding increase of pressure on land requirement, being a limited commodity. So because people were so many, land was becoming less and less and less. So what happened? Agriculture being the prime occupation of the villagers, the rural youth faced the problem of unemployment. There was hardly any land left. In one family there are so many members, and if the same land is now divided to these many people, they will all get a very small share. It was not enough for them to live a life comfortably. So they faced the problem of unemployment. So the problem with the growth of population came the problem of unemployment. Now people began to move to cities and industrial centers in search of jobs. Thus they had to leave the traditional joint families, which resulted in the breakdown of joint family systems. So I hope you have understood this point, that because of the growth of the population, many people were not having enough work to do and not enough money to look after their needs. So what did they do? In search of the employment and money, they moved out from their villages and from the joint family systems. Fourth point for the breakage of joint family system was education. So modern education led to occupational mobility. That means people are now highly qualified, or they have the opportunities and more avenues to look for better occupation outside their villages and outside their joint families also. Education did not only bring changes in their attitudes, beliefs, values and ideologies, but also created individualistic feelings. So what happens when we study a bit? We start to know something and then we think that we are different from others. This is called individualistic feelings, that we are better and we have a choice, we can make a choice. Obviously they were now more aware of their rights to equality, their rights to live independently. All those things were now clear in their minds due to this education. So because of that, they were not ready to take the traditional authority just as it was. So they started to question the traditional authority. This is what happens. You also must be knowing, the people who are a bit educated, they ask certain questions. They ask many questions from the uneducated parents or grandparents, thinking that they know better. So this is what was happening with these families also, with these individuals also, who were now educated. So they started to question the traditional beliefs. The increasing education not only brought changes in the philosophy of life of men and women, but also provided new avenues of employment and led to economic independence. So now they had a better life looking at them from the cities. So they were now ready to break their bond from the joint family to earn a better living in the far off cities. Another point was changing status of women. So social reform movements and awareness amongst the women it just brought about the awareness amongst the women for their own position, and this affected the patriarchal society authority of the joint family system. So now the women, with the education, women also learned about their rights, and they also started to question, and they also started to make decisions, take decisions or make choices about their life. And they also did not take the authorities straight away as they were taking earlier, especially from the patriarchal society, that is male dominated society. So the women were now questioning the male dominance now with the advent of education and social reform movements. The spread of modern education also enlightened the women regarding their rights and claim for equality. This is what we had just discussed. It brought about drastic changes in the practices and ideas of family. So they understood and they tried to practice their own individualistic ideas about family. They were now more assertive towards their rights, to be individual rights, and to make definite choices in their life. So they wanted to also break away from the joint family system where they had to take so many approvals from the elders, from the males. So they questioned all this, and this with the change in the education system and with the advent of social reform movements, the status of women also changed. Now they no longer willed to remain within the walls of the household in the traditional subordinate position. So earlier women's role was confined to the household only, and they were mostly not allowed to go outside the homes and work. But this time, with the education and training, they were also trying to and willing to go outside and work for themselves. Social reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Keshav Chandra Sen, Jyoti Rao Phule, Maharshi Karve, Pandit Ramabai and many others have worked and brought about considerable success for the cause of women. So these are the names of some people who really got up to work for the enlightenment and empowerment of women, because women were also a category which was very highly subjugated. It was dominated by the male society, and they did not have the equal rights as the males had. They did not have the rights to property as the male heirs will have from their patriarchal society. Even in matriarchal society, if you remember, they did not have rights on the property. So always they were dependent on economically on some male member, and that led to some kind of exploitation. So that was these social reforms were the response to those kind of exploitations. So all these factors affected the patriarchal authority of a joint family. As a result, the process of disintegration started in the joint family. So now, as you can see, that everybody was questioning, all those members who were the part of the joint family for a long time, they got up and they were now questioning the single male authority of these kind of joint family. With the education and with more awareness towards their rights, towards equality, they were demanding the equal position. So all this really shook the roots of the joint family system. So now the sixth point comes, which is very important, which brought about major changes in the Indian social structure, including the structure of the joint family. So joint family was a very big pillar of the Indian structure, but with the advent of these social legislations, the foundation of the joint family system was really shaken. So legislations enacted during the British rule impacted the joint family system to loosen its roots. So what were these laws? There was this Gains of Learning Act of 1930, which is talking about the inheritance of the property in favor of that child who is learned to run that kind of property over the other children. Okay, so for example, there is a doctor's firm. So now the law was the son or the daughter who is a doctor can run that firm, will be given that property instead of all the other children who are not equipped to deal with that kind of business. So this also broke the traditional system where the eldest son only was entitled to inherit the property. The second was the Hindu Law of Inheritance Act of 1929. So this was again a law which was a lawful automatic transfer of state or property of a dead or diseased person to his heirs or children or blood relations. So in case the person has not written his will and he dies, so the property in his name will be automatically given to the children, and if children are not there, to the blood relations. So all this also changed the system of the joint family, where the eldest son or the karta of the family was the one who enjoyed property rights. And in the matriarchal family, who was the person? The person who looked after the Karanvan, who was the owner of the property. After that came the Hindu Women's Right to Property Act of 1937. This was a very important right in the favor of women. It entitled a widow, Hindu widow, to claim the dead husband's property, at least a limited share on dead husband's property. Otherwise, the property was straight away going to the children, and that also to the son. But with advent of this right to property act, the widow was entitled to get limited share of the husband's property. Then came the Sati Prevention Act of 1829. So this also prevented the act of sati, and this was again enforced by the joint family system. When somebody's husband died, the women, the wife of that deceased, was forced to commit sati also. So this was also not by their choice. Most of the time it was by force. So with this particular act, put an end to that practice of sati. Then there is this Hindu Widows Remarriage Act of 1856. This Widow Remarriage Act of 1856 allowed the widows to remarry. Earlier, this was a problem that widows were supposed to live in a particular manner only, and there were so many restrictions on them that if you see them now, you will find them unbelievable. They had to shave their heads, they had to live on whatever was given to them, whatever food. They were completely dependent on the family members in a joint family setup, and they were ill-treated and they were exploited in various manners, what all you can think of. So this particular act, when came 1856, this allowed the Hindu widow to remarry, which definitely looked into the welfare of the widows. Then came the Child Marriage Restraint Act 1929, which brought changes in the family relations. So again, earlier that there was this practice of child marriage, and children in a very young age they were given to marriage, and you can think of the plight of especially again the girl child who is going to go to another family when she attains puberty, and she is still a child only, and then she was burdened with the family responsibilities. So this was all stopped with this Child Marriage Restraint Act of 1929. Then came the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955, and this was the first act which amended and codified the laws related to marriage amongst Hindus and others. This also introduced the concept of separation or divorce, which was not according to the Hindu Shastras, because Hindu marriages were based on Shastras. So it was not a concept of Shastras. It was said that wherever the bride goes, her she'll die there only. So there was no concept of breaking that marriage, however miserable the marriage might be. So this particular act, when came, it gave a breather to the women who could break off from a miserable marital relationship. Then came Civil Marriage Act of 1957, which gave the freedom to the adult males and females to marry according to their choice and helped the women to seek divorce on certain grounds. So this also you can see is a very important act to protect individuals' rights, because earlier what was the system in the joint family? If you remember, joint family always advocated the arranged marriage system, which had to be approved by the elders of the family and especially by the Karta. But now, through this act, the people who were to get married, they can make their own choice because it is their marriage. So the marriages had to be based on their choice and not on anybody else's choice. So, and this also helped the women to seek divorce also on certain grounds. So why this divorce is coming up again and again? It was in some cases it was really needed because there was a lot of exploitation against women at that time, and women were uneducated, they were unemployed, they were dependent on the family members, so they were really exploited. So through this act they could seek divorce and could put an end to the exploitation and atrocities against them. Then came, there are many pension schemes, old age homes, etc. This also helped the elderly people to be less dependent on the security provided by the joint family system. The joint family was providing the security to them, but sometimes, as we all know, that in the families these elderly people are neglected and not respected much, they are not even accepted much. So it goes against their personal the individuality and their own self-respect. So these kind of pension schemes and old age homes and looking after their medical needs, these agencies, when they came up and laws related to them came up, it again helped the elderly people also to be less dependent on the security provided by the joint family system. So all these legislations gave enough facility to the members to divide the joint family immediately after the death of the father. So these legislations were very helpful to divide the property on certain grounds and not on the whims and fancies of the Karta. Whatever the Karta decided, the property will be divided like that, no more like that. Now, there are certain rules which are backed by the legislations and laws, and the families will have to follow those rules, otherwise there will be litigations. Okay, so here there is a study done by a famous sociologist, I.P. Desai. He studied a small port town in Gujarat. So Gujarat is called a port town. Why? Because of the ocean, Arabian Ocean that the city has. And it was a port town because there was a lot of business taking place through the sea. So in that there was a small town, Mahua, in the early 60s. So he studied the joint family system. He wanted to check whether the structural aspect of the family still exists. How are they? What are the ties of the joint family? Are the people still maintaining the ties even after being away from each other? Are those ties still there, or the joint family has completely disintegrated? This is what he wanted to learn. So this is what is written here in a bit of a complicated language. Besides the structural aspect of family, I.P. Desai examined carefully the types of jointness based on degree, intensity and orientation with regard to function and obligation which people perform for each other though living separately and at far off places. So he wanted to check on the degree, intensity and orientation. That means how, with what degree, with how much intensity, that means how much depth, and what kind of orientation, that is what kind of intention with regard to functions and obligations towards the joint family. So how, basically, how much intense these joint family ties have remained, the intensity is there or not. This is what he wanted to find out. So based on the data collected by him, the study examined the questions of jointness in terms of religion, occupational relations, property, education, urbanization, kinship, obligation and household compositions. So he examined all these aspects, where how much joined the people are of the joint family in terms of religion. So are the Hindu families more joined than the Muslim families, or like that, based on religion? Occupational relations, whether they were business partners. So are they, what is it that is bonding them together? Is it their occupational relations which are bonding them still together? Maybe they are the business partners, so they want to stay together, and this is the reason why the joint family is still intact. This is what he wanted to examine. Property, are they still enjoying the common property instead of taking small shares? So that can also be a reason for the joint families to be together. Education, is the education detrimental to the joint family system, or is it supporting the joint family system? Urbanization, what impact has urbanization have on the joint family system? Kinship obligations, that is what is give and take inside a family. Some marriage you have to give something, you have to go there, certain social norms which are related to your relations. These are called kinship obligations. And household compositions. So how these households are now composed. So all this he wanted to examine in terms of joint family system. That is basically how joint family systems are functioning after industrialization and urbanization, with people moving away from each other. So let's see what his finding was. So Desai found the following 5 types of degrees of jointness. So he said degrees of jointness meaning how much close they were. So the maximum closeness and the minimum closeness, on what basis? So the households with 0 degree of jointness, households of low degree of jointness joined by the way of fulfillment of mutual obligation. So this is a very 0 degree of jointness, meaning they are not at all in touch with each other. So there is no jointness amongst each other. Then this is the first type of degree of jointness. Second type of degree of jointness, low degree of jointness, where they are joined by the way of fulfillment of mutual obligations. Okay, there is a marriage in the family, birth in the family, death in the family. Let's go there. That's all, because it is our obligation to go there. Only that much jointness is there. So this is also considered to be a low degree of jointness. Then there were households with high degree of jointness. Jointness by the way of common ownership of property. Now there is everybody's interest is involved, which is property, and they all are owning it, and they know it very well that it is better to be together in terms of enjoy the common property, because that is a big lavish property in contrast with cutting down the pieces and taking a smaller share. So that was one of the reasons which was a deciding factor for this high degree of jointness. So they were joined by a common ownership of property. Then there was households with higher degree of jointness. What was that? So these were marginally joint families. That means they were somewhere living together, but little differences, little separatedness. So it was better than the high degree of jointness, the higher degree of jointness. So we can think of some examples where people are maybe living in one big building and still separated but still together. They are together but still separated. So they were maybe called marginally joint families. And then fifth was households with the highest degree of jointness, which was traditional joint families. So Desai, after examining those factors, came out with these degrees of jointness from 0 degree to the highest degree. And what was his conclusion? His conclusion was that the structural breakdown is only apparent but not real. That means what? That means it looks that the joint family is now broken or disintegrated, but in actuality it is not. It looks like a structural breakdown, because what is structural breakdown? That is, now the family looks very small. It does not look like a joint family, and it looks like a nuclear family. But it only looks like that. Why? Because in today's joint family may give rise to several nuclear families, and each nuclear family may become a small joint family, and after 2 decades, when grandchildren are born, the depth of generations becomes 3. So this is a very, very interesting point you must have seen in your own families. When the parents become grandparents of your own sisters and brothers, they get married, they have their children, and your nuclear family turns into a joint family. So this also was a good pointer to show that the joint families still exist. And still you can see that the Indian family is altering between nuclearness and jointness in a cyclical fashion. So what is cyclical fashion? It is going round and round. So one time it becomes nuclear, another time it becomes joint. Then it again becomes nuclear. How? First it was a nuclear family with parents and the children. Now the children had their own children. So it becomes 3 generations living together. When the children became more, they separated. In the sense, structural separation. They went out to work or to have their own houses. Still they were in connection, they were in touch with each other. So this nuclear became joint, and the joint again became nuclear. Hope you have understood this, that they started from a nuclear family, became joint, and because of the maybe space crunch or some other necessities, they had to move out. So again the families became nuclear. So this was the conclusion of the chapter. Hope you have understood the chapter. Please go through it and please try to understand all the terminologies. We have tried to explain it as much as possible. I have not given you questions here at the end of it, because the next and the concluding part of this chapter we are going to deal only with the question answers of this chapter. So please read the chapter well and see that you have understood all the concepts. With this we end. Thank you and Om Sai Ram.